As always, I want to open with a great big warm greeting to all of our ANA and ANCC friends who are here. Would you all stand up for us so we can say good morning and thank you? You have been welcoming DAISY to this conference since 2009. Your impact on DAISY's growth has been immeasurable. Well, actually, it is very measurable because we know that we have virtually all of the Magnet and Pathway to Excellence organizations committed to DAISY thanks to your incredible support. So thank you so much for being with us this morning. Well, just a few updates before we get on to our program about what's going on at DAISY. We are about to celebrate the one-year anniversary of a new addition to our team, Dr. Deb Zimmerman, our Chief Executive Officer. Deb, where are you? You can stand. Deb has been doing a tremendous job in so many ways, and especially she is helping us get our DAISY message out to an even broader audience. And we're so grateful that her focus on changing the narrative in nursing to the positive is really, really starting to resonate at a time that don't we all need that positivity. And thank you, Deb, for everything you've been doing the last year. We're so happy you're with us. Well, I want you to know, by the way, because somebody came up to us the other day and said, so now that you're retiring, Mark and I looked at each other and said, did they forget to tell us something? We aren't retiring, we are growing, and Mark and I are committed to serving the nursing profession and DAISY's mission for the rest of our lives. I just want you to know that. Today, there are 5,520 healthcare facilities and schools of nursing throughout the United States and in 33 other countries committed to honoring nurses with the DAISY Award. You all are members of an incredible, truly global community of nurses and organizations who respect the importance of compassionate care and all that it brings to patients, and organizations that also respect the impact that meaningful recognition has on the nurses who provide that kind of care. So we're really thrilled to see this breadth and growth of recognition going throughout the world. Would all of our DAISY honorees in the audience please stand so we can recognize you? Thank you. Our DAISY community of honorees is now 189,000 nurses strong. And to date, more than 2.5 million times a patient or a family member or a coworker has stopped and taken the time to share their story and their gratitude with a nurse by writing a nomination for the DAISY Award. So long ago, we figured out Mark and I are not the only folks who need to say thank you to you. So more than 2.5 million times. So if you're ever wondering, aside from the incredible impact that ANA and ANCC have had on our work, if you're ever wondering how it got so big, I hope you don't mind this little pitch. Our book, Shining the Light on All the Right, Celebrating the Art of Nursing, is in the bookstore here. Thank you so much, ANA. So please take a look at it. It really tells the story of how nurses supported and nurtured and guided us along the way to create a program that has clearly resonated with nurses around the world. So we'll be happy to sign it for you if you'll bring it to our DAISY display, which is right by the bookstore. Well, again this year, we are so fortunate to have the incredible generous support of our friends at Simpler. Simpler's passion for nurses and their commitment to our mission to recognize nurses is boundless. We're so fortunate to have with us today Chief Marketing Officer and Kristen Russell, Chief Nursing Officer, someone I hope you all know, Dr. Carleen Kerfoot, also on our DAISY board, Mike Vipond, sitting up front here, who's the Senior Vice President and Managing Director, Ali Morin, Vice President of Nursing Informatics, Patty Dorgan, Director of Product Marketing, and extraordinary event planner, Lois Evans. Lois has been planning these events with us now for 8 years, and she's taught us all so much about how to do this well. I hope when you picked up your tickets at the Simpler booth yesterday, you got a chance to see these beautiful human-sized daisies that Lois was able to bring in from a Ukrainian artist right after the war started. They're simply beautiful, and if you didn't notice them when you were busy picking up your ticket, go by the booth again. They're a perfect photo op. They're just beautiful. So before I introduce our speakers, could I ask our DAISY leadership team and board to please stand? We need to recognize you too. You know that DAISY is a family foundation at its heart, and we have a really large foundation, family foundation now of 26 people that work with us. But the ones who are here today, I want you to meet Tina Barnes-Caraher, our daughter-in-law, Patrick's wife, Vice President of Marketing and Communications, DAISY co-founder. She worked with Simpler to organize all this today. Tina, thank you, wherever you are. Thank you so much. Our daughter-in-law, Melissa Barnes, is here. She is our astounding Vice President of Operations who keeps us all in line and gives you everything you all need, which is fantastic. Chief Financial Officer Peter Mayer, he's not related by blood, but he feels like a brother. And of course, our CEO, Deb Zimmerman. And from our board, Drs. Karen Cox, President of Chamberlain University, and I found out this morning, a great photographer, if ever anyone's looking for one. Rick Cumming, Chief Nurse Executive of Christiana Care. Susan Grant, Executive Vice President of Wellstar, and I often refer to Susan as the godmother of DAISY. She was our first Chief Nursing Officer who, when we as a grieving family went to University of Washington Medical Center with this crazy idea to celebrate nurses, Susan welcomed us with open arms, so thank you, Susan. And of course, Carlene Kerfoot, Simpler CNO. DAISY really is what it is thanks to the dedication, the passion, the commitment, and very hard work of all of these people and the rest of our team back home. So, and of course, I have to say my forever thank you, profound love for my beloved Mark Barnes, my husband. Yes, you. Mark truly leads DAISY's strong focus on honoring compassionate care, just like the kind of care we experienced when our Patrick was so sick 23 years ago. So, Mark, we wouldn't be here without you, honey. Thank you. Well, today we welcome partners not only from Magnet, but also from Pathways to Excellence organizations. So to start off this morning, we would like to pay tribute to one of our Pathways to Excellence partners, whose leaders have come all the way from the Philippines to celebrate and be at this conference and be here this morning. So please welcome, from St. Luke's Medical Center in the Philippines, Chief Nursing Officer Gigi de Malabat. Gigi, would you stand, please? Nursing Director Kay Rodriguez. Kay, are you here? And Clinical Nurse Manuel Canlas, all from St. Luke's Medical Center. St. Luke's was our first partner in the Philippines, now the first of many, but they were the pioneers over there. And they kicked off their program in 2015, and it is exemplary. Melissa had the chance to go over and spend some time with them in the hospitals. I can't wait for Mark and me to be able to do that. But what we have seen from a distance is just beautiful. They have fantastic DAISY coordinators, and they ensured that nurses were being honored month in and month out throughout the pandemic, no matter what, and we so appreciated that. Gigi, you are a real champion of nursing recognition, and we are so grateful to you for your leadership and for the environment you've created through these, and it shows in these pathway designations. Let's take a look at what St. Luke's is doing with their DAISY Award program, please.
Being a nurse is more than just a job. We are there for people in some of their worst moments. And this is what we do on a daily basis. And And for someone, especially for a patient or a family member, to appreciate and speak of how we have impacted their lives and recognize the efforts we put in every day in such a formal way is a truly humbling and meaningful experience.
I feel like my words are not enough to express my pride and gratitude to our amazing nurses here in St. Luke's Medical Center.
That overwhelming happiness, commitment, and more dedication to work. Being a Daisy honoree brings me to be a better nurse of service to us. I am thankful for the nursing leadership, our chief nurse, our educators for teaching us, for inspiring us, and for imbibing us that St. Luke brand of nurse.
We started the Daisy recognition in 2014. We are committed to a meaningful, great patient experience, a positive practice environment.
We are beyond thankful that St. Luke's Medical Center is a proud Daisy partner. Recognizing our nurses with this special honor every quarter, the Daisy Awards inspired our nurses to go beyond expectations towards provision of great patient experience.
Forever I will be grateful being a Daisy honoree. Forever I will be thankful to the patient who nominated me. I will be even more motivated to work and invite my colleagues to be good not only in their practice, but to put their patients as the heart.
What moves me most is the love, genuine care, and happiness I feel from them whenever they come to the unit. If anything, they are the ones who have impacted and made a difference in my life. It is actually like gaining another family member.
The feeling of becoming a Daisy awardee is fulfilling. It's like a dream turned into reality. Ever since the day that I learned about the Daisy Award, it became one of my career goals, and I promised myself that someday I will become a Daisy awardee.
Being a Daisy awardee is a very humbling experience, making a difference in many lives in very special ways.
Beautiful. Gigi, I hope you'll share our gratitude to your team back home who put that beautiful video together. Thank you so much. It's so clear that compassionate care and the celebration of it know no borders, and we're so proud to partner with you. Well, now to this morning's speakers. When the war broke out in Ukraine and Russia invaded that beautiful, peaceful country, I'm sure many of you, like us, wondered what could we do to help, and we felt pretty helpless. The thought of the human destruction that was going to take place with the ground war and the destruction that, of course, continues was, to me, incredibly painful. I'm sure we all felt that way. Well, we have with us an organization that had in place everything they needed to mount an international team to help. When we read about what St. Jude Children's Research Hospital was doing to bring Ukrainian children here for care, well, we knew this was a story that had to be shared with all of you. Despite the fact that St. Jude's epic go-live is in just 2 weeks, when we called, Chief Nursing Officer Robin Mutz and Outpatient Nursing Director Tammy Teams didn't hesitate to accept our invitation to share St. Jude's story with all of us today. As you may know, St. Jude is often noted as the patron saint of hopeless causes. But there is nothing hopeless about the unyielding compassion that St. Jude's nurses have exuded bringing Ukrainian children for care to Memphis when war broke out in their country. May I very proudly introduce Robin and Tammy. Please come on up. all set? Outstanding. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Great. Like Bonnie said, we are 2 weeks into an epic implementation. So if we lose our train of thought, just bear with us. So there's a lot going on. So I'm Robin Mutz, and I have the privilege of leading nursing at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And I am honored today to be the storyteller for this amazing group of nurses and the work that they did on a moment's notice to help children in need. I think it might be helpful to start to talk a little bit about St. Jude and what we have done. There we go. When Danny Thomas opened St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in 1962 with 2 beds, he had a single vision, that no child should die in the dawn of life. And St. Jude has spent 60 years perfecting treatment and cures to cure incurable children. In 1962, the chances of surviving a pediatric cancer were 20%. Today, the chances of surviving a pediatric cancer are 80%, and ALL is 96%. It's amazing work in a very short time. But we know that today, in low and middle income countries, the chances of surviving a pediatric cancer remain at 20% because of poor access to medicines, to care, to research, and to protocols. So in 2018, St. Jude Global partnered with the World Health Organization to form the St. Jude Alliance Global Collaborative. St. Jude partnered with hospitals, governments, health systems to bring St. Jude's cures around the world to further Danny's mission that no child should die in the dawn of life. There are 7 regions around the world. In EURASIA, there are 15 countries, 48 institutions, and more than 250 members. So we were very fortunate because of EURASIA, because of all the work that had been done in EURASIA, and that we had people there, we had physicians on the ground, we had nurses on the ground. It was easy to partner with Poland and other countries to make sure that these children receive care as quickly as possible. And I think we all watched in horror on February 24th when Russia invaded and a peaceful country became a war-torn country. Their health system collapsed in a matter of moments. There were approximately, at that time, 300 children with either a pediatric oncologic or hematologic condition that needed to be evacuated. Poland felt like they could take 100 children, but they were going to get a whole lot more. So here's the good part. 4 nurses. Zuza in the black t-shirt, she worked for the Polish president of the Pediatric Hematology Oncology Society. I talked to her on the phone and she told me, I wanted to do something. I wanted to help, because that's what nurses do. She said that the next day after the invasion, her physician called her and said, I need a favor. Now, those of us who've been nurses a long time know that when your physician partner calls you and says, I need a favor, you should run. But she's been a nurse for 2 years. And she said, tell me what you need. So he told her, we've got to set up a triage clinic immediately because we're going to begin evacuating these children. So what did she do? Phones a friend. Cassia, in the burgundy t-shirt, was her college roommate. Now, Cassia is a PICU nurse. When I talked to her, she said, you know, my patients are paralyzed and sedated. She said, I had no idea how to take care of these children. The other 2 nurses that helped them, one is a new grad, and the other was in grad school. Really had no firsthand nursing experience. But they had 5 days. They set up a clinic in a moment's notice. Very smart nurses called all their friends who worked in surgery or were wound and ostomy nurses or who were vascular access nurses and said, we need the crash course on what we need to do to help these children. I wanted to give you an indication of the catastrophic nature of what happened in the Ukraine. Now, this was a slide that went to May 25th of 2022, but over 300 health facilities were in active hostilities. 50% of the pharmacies closed. Healthcare workers were displaced or unable to work, and 63% reporting someone in the community who had a serious medical problem. It was devastating, and they really didn't know where to turn. So St. Jude and their partners set up Safer Ukraine. SAFER is an acronym that stands for Supporting Action for Emergency Response in Ukraine. Because we had people on the ground and good partners there, we were able to mobilize quickly. We had international physicians who understood Ukrainian, could read and write it, who began to translate records for us and began to work with the government of Poland and Ukraine to make sure that these children could have safe transport. I asked the nurses, I said, were you scared? And they were like, we didn't have time to be scared. We didn't know how many people were coming. We really weren't sure how we were gonna take care of all of them, but we decided the best thing that we could do was to prepare an environment that was calm and safe for these children. So on March 12th, the evacuation began. These 4 nurses received 60 children, and with their families, 200 people that first night. They arrived around midnight. Some came by convoy. The medical personnel in the convoy was an EMT. And on the trains, there were a few physicians. I think this is an example of one of the train that was set up by the Polish government to be a modified ICU because we were unsure of the condition of these children. Many of them had been living in shelters since the war began. We were worried about communicable diseases. We were worried about COVID. We were worried about neutropenia and fever because those of you who take care of oncology patients know that a fever and neutropenia is life-threatening for these children. But they came, and most of them came with elderly grandparents and moms because all the able-bodied men had to stay and fight. So not only were they displaced from their homes and their country, they were displaced from their families as well. I think it's safe to say that it had to be a terrifying experience for them. Safer Ukraine was able to create the Unicorn Clinic. And what they did is they went to a closed country lodge that was closed for the season. They were able to get 4 workers to come back to cook and housekeep and take care of these families. And you can see an example of the rooms there. Those became not only sleeping quarters, but those were the clinic rooms to help care for these children. And as this map points out, this is an indication how far they were from medical facilities. And I asked them, I said, well, what did you get together? And they said, well, we got bandages and we got emergency equipment. And they stopped and they said, well, really, we had oxygen. And I said, what would you do if there was an emergency? And without a moment's hesitation, they said, we'd pray real hard because it was a long way to a hospital. So the clinic was set up in 3 phases: evacuation, stabilization, and again, evacuation. This is a picture of the medical triage as they prepared for the families to come. There was 3 phases. The first day, they just wanted to make sure that each of the children were medically stable. Then they offered them food and then allowed them to go and rest. Fortunately, most of the children were very stable and were able to go and sleep. The second day was the physical exam day. They tried to do a detailed physical assessment on every child. And I said, how did that go? And they were like, well, we didn't speak the language. We had translators. The children were crying. But we knew if we got stickers and candy, it would be okay. A pediatric nurse knows you can get a lot of mileage out of a sticker and a sucker. And they said, we began to put the stickers on them, and they put the stickers on us, and the translators were dancing, and we were singing, and slowly that bond was built of trust, that these children felt that they were going to be okay. I asked them, I said, tell me about a patient that you'll never forget. And without hesitation, they said, well, we had a little guy. He was neutropenic, and he was going to have to be transported. He was going to have to go to the hospital, and he was very upset, did not want to leave. And so Zuza went to his mom and said, tell me something that he really likes that would make it more comfortable for him to go. And all the moms here will get this. He loves McDonald's. So she picked up the phone, called the transport team, and said, hey, guys, can you swing through the drive-thru? And they showed up with a Happy Meal. See, that's the kind of things nurses do. They figure out where the patient is and where the family is and what they need right then. And in a war-torn country, there was a little boy who needed a Happy Meal. The evacuation was very interesting and very well orchestrated. We got 9 children. We didn't get a huge entourage of children, but because of Safer Ukraine, they were able to triage these children to the level of care that they needed in the country that could accept them and provide that safe care. So as you can see that these children went all over the world. For the children that we received, they came in 2 waves. We used a medical contract or transport, think old jet, to get them to Memphis. They left Ukraine, went to Iceland to refuel, went through customs at JFK, and on to Memphis. It took them 24 hours to get here. But no one ever lost their focus. And I talked to the nurses. I said, so did you guys take them to the airport? Is that how that all worked? They were like, well, a few went to the airport, but we had an airstrip, and these jets landed and took off sort of in the backyard. And I said, well, how did you do that? And they said, well, we would take the children in a convoy. There would be a nurse, a translator, along with the families, and we would get them to the plane and then watch the plane take off. I said, how did it make you feel when that first plane took off? And without hesitation, she said, I felt like I gave them hope. So far, Safer Ukraine has given 1,100 children hope. Well, this is the first wave that came to us. And I'm going to let Tammy tell this story because she led the work to get here. But before I hung up with the Polish nurses, I told them what we were going to do, and I said, tell me one thing you would like to tell all your colleagues who are in this room today. And they said, trust your instincts, trust your colleagues, and have good communication at every level. So I bring you their sage advice from 2 students, a PICU nurse, and a nurse with 2 years of experience. We should all learn a lot.
So when Robin delegated this task to me, I thought it was an incredible opportunity for little old nurse me to do something incredible for these patients and families who we all watched go through this devastating change in their life. When I when I asked our staff if anyone would be willing to stay and be on an on-call basis for when we might receive a few families of an unknown medical condition from this area, I was deeply touched and overwhelmed by the selfless volunteering of our nurses. I've worked with these nurses for 12 years. They amaze me every day, carrying families through their journey, sometimes their last journey together. And without hesitation, there was an immediate, I'll do whatever's needed. You tell me when they might come, and we'll set up a rotation to be on call, whether it's during the week or on the weekend. And they were there. They stepped up and amazed me and just made me very proud to work beside some of the most amazing people that I've ever known. And I'm sure that each of you share that same feeling with the nurses that you work with. So I'm just grateful to be able to represent that nursing team that does exactly what every one of our nurses do every day. And that's putting that patient first and putting yourself aside. So our part of the receiving of these patients was a little bit easier because of all the work that was done in Ukraine, and our Polish nurses will never know how much we appreciate them stabilizing and preparing those kids to come to us. So after we found out late during the week, maybe Thursday-ish, that they would be arriving sometime on Monday. So we set up a small clinic in one of our clinic spaces, about 7 rooms. We had 5 nurses there that first night who were they had a little bit of a snippet of their medical history, but they were in good spirits. They just like me and just like you all, we wanted to do something. We wanted to provide a safe, warm, welcoming environment for them to come to. So when they arrived, they came in. We waved little Ukrainian flags for them. We got a couple of smiles, which gave us some hope that they trusted us coming in the door. And much like our Ukrainian partners, we had interpreters there, but we had scared moms and children, and we had about 30 seconds probably to build a little bit of trust. Come in this room with me in this medical facility after you've traveled for 24 hours, and let me take your temperature and get your blood pressure. So they trusted us, and we were able to get them evaluated and get them prepared to go to our housing, where we had warm food, interpreters there, snacks for them. And at the end of the day, we felt like we were successful in welcoming them and giving them a warm, safe, quiet place to lay their head before they begin the next part of their journey, and that was receiving their care the next day. So what we'd like to show is a video here, and I'd like to introduce my nurses. I would like to introduce my nurses here that receive these patients. They're just incredible women. So.
Honestly, I was nervous for the families. They were coming to an area that they do not know, with people who do not speak their language. And so we wanted to make sure that we could do the best for them while they were here. So then there's that hope and that excitement that we are able to make the transition as comfortable and as easy as possible for them.
We didn't get a lot of information as far as what kind of clinical state the patients were in. So when you take oncology and cancer treatment, and not have any information about where we're used to a huge medical record coming in with these patients. And so just that unknown of what is it like where they're living on a normal state, and then what is it like in this war state?
Just for me, just looking at the news coverage, it was a very bad situation. And just knowing that there were a lot of kids and families that were affected, just kind of pulls at your heartstrings a little bit more. So I was very, I guess my word would be kind of anxious, as just what's kind of state they will be in when, with all of this going on.
I was very anxious as well. Some of the charts that arrived were very limited with information, so you really didn't know truly what to expect, based off of like a one sheet of paper, like, and a lot of it being in, the Ukraine language. So you just had to kind of just, anticipate, the worst, in order to prepare for the best outcome.
I know they were very intentional about trying to have a nurse from every clinic that for whichever diagnosis was coming. And also just, I feel like for me as a nurse, I feel like I'm always prepared for the unknown, because nursing is just that way sometimes. You just come to work and it's usually not gonna go the way that you expected it to. And so I think just being a nurse at baseline, you're just prepared for whatever may come. St. Jude was very intentional about having supportive staff here, the social workers, child life, chaplain even, nutritional services, to make sure that everybody was on board to best support the families for their comfort. Interpreter services was a big one for me as a nurse, because I'm trying to communicate with the patient and the huge language barrier. But having that interpreter face-to-face makes a big difference from having an interpreter on our interpreter video, because when you're trying to communicate with the patient, that also just makes things easier, and it makes them more comfortable to know that I'm trying to communicate with you and not just gonna try to just get through it without communicating with you with an interpreter.
I think it took the stress off of us and allowed the families to have everything they needed at their fingertips right when they arrived, versus us calling and trying to coordinate all of that. Mm-hmm. They did a really great job, the institution did, of making sure that was all available.
With the younger patients, we tried to keep them in their most comfortable state. And for the most part, that was with their parents in their lap, keeping the families together. We didn't want to separate them in the rooms. We tried to do what we could while respecting their boundaries.
That first round, Brittany and I in one room completely teared up. Yes. I mean, there was no way not to show that emotion. And I think sometimes that's okay, because you're bonding with the family over that human emotion.
I feel like you have to bring the emotional side into it. We would not create the bonds that we have here if we weren't emotional people and, didn't cry with them at times.
Yeah. I think we rely on each other. Sometimes we get in trouble for the amount that we rely on each other because of the conversations that we have. But just being able to kind of talk through it and know that you're not going through it alone. It's hard because we're often told, you're supposed to keep your work and emotion out of it, but you can't. There's just no way when you're given so much.
I have about a 45 minute drive home, just that quietness. You just kind of reflect back. And I felt really saddened for them because the importance of it then did hit. These families have left their home, their loved ones. They could only come with a select belongings. So realizing that we were able to be a part of that to help comfort them made me feel very much more relieved that we were able to provide some security for them.
I was surprised, even though after working with kids so long, I shouldn't be shocked by this, but that they were so resilient, that they came in from a whole different country with a language barrier, and they adapted, and the families have adapted. And that is credit to them, as well as I think the processes we put in place for that transition to be kind of seamless as best we could. But yeah, their resilience was very inspiring given the situations that they were coming from.
They were happy to see us. They run in the clinic. Even though there's still a language barrier, they still they speak in their language as if we understand, and we speak back to them. So it has that, we both smile at each other. So it's very different, and you can tell they're a lot more comfortable with being here.
Why you got into this, remember why it brings you joy, remember why it brings you happiness. Just always remember your why. Because in tough moments, you might have to step back and say to yourself, why do I do this? And that'll help you continue on.
So we are very honored that the Daisy Foundation has given us the opportunity to receive the International Daisy Team Award, and we're so very honored. And we do have one special guest with us.
So it is my honor and my pride to introduce you all to Megan Key. She is here with us in attendance. She is one of my managers, and she was never hesitating, and she reminds us, not just on this video, but every day, remember the why. Thank you, Megan.
Wow. All I can say is wow. You have taught us so much in this short period of time about who we are and what we can do and what we have done. And you've taught us to really honor everything that's gone before. This was a fantastic presentation. I'm trying to say thank you, but I don't know how. I have too many goosebumps right now, so it's a little difficult through the goosebumps to be able to say thank you. But all of us thank you for your courage in the middle of all this. And we thank you for everything that you've done in terms of this terrific teamwork, this terrific thing that you people have done in terms of nursing and getting all this together and things like that. We just thank you so much. You know, I'm so impressed with sort of the yin and the yang of what you people have gone through. Here's war, but here's love. Here's tragedy, but you fix it. And so I think part of our life is that yin and the yang. How do we take something as tragic as what these kids have gone through and do what you've done to be able to turn it into love and caring and cure in many situations like that? I think one of the things that nurses do is nurses do, in fact, turn tragedy into love. They turn tragedy into meaning over and over and over again. And if you think about what the Daisy Foundation has done, that's exactly what they've done. They've taken a horrible tragedy and turned it into something wonderful that's all over the world now. So we're touching hearts absolutely everywhere. And that's what you've done. You're able to take something as tragic as a diagnosis of cancer, or the diagnosis of these kids that can't get treated in Ukraine, and bring them over here and really change their lives and change the lives also of the people who care for them. There's no way that we can thank you enough for that. There just is no way. But I think the message is, how do we keep that in our forefront day after day after day, turning tragedy into meaning and love? And that's what nurses do every day. You know, somebody comes in with a kid with a broken leg and the kid is screaming. You turn that tragedy into love and caring and meaning, and you help them through those things, and simple things like that, and very complex things such as heart attacks and so on. That's who we are, and that's what we're here for, and you are a terrific exemplar for that. You know, the leader of Ukraine, Zelensky, who I dearly love, and I want to read everything he ever writes or talks about or anything like that. He's an incredible leader. He has said that light will win over darkness, and that's his message, that light will win over darkness. We really have, we make beautiful things out of horrible tragedies, on and on and on. But I think also we have to remember that we do stand on the shoulders of very important people. We stand on the shoulders of Daisy, we stand on the shoulders of what you people have done, and we're here because of certain things. We're here because of the Daisy Foundation and the fact that that family was able to move beyond tragedy and say, how can we find meaning in this, which is fabulous. We're also here because of ANA, we're also here because of Magnet, and without all these people that we've stood on the shoulders of, we wouldn't be here today. So I want to thank a very special person, Maggie McClure. Yay!
Why are you thanking me?
You want to say anything?
After I hear what some of these people have done, can't imagine why I should be thanked for anything.
She's only the mother of Magnet, you know. We're here because of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. It's been just fabulous. You know, I did this work with 3 other people, and they're not here anymore. And that makes me feel very sad because, of course, why should I be the one standing here when there were 4 of us working on it? So but I know they're shining down from heaven
Sure.
and saying how grateful they are for all your hard work, and I am too. Thank you very much.
Wow, where to even start? Holy cow, what a community of of incredible people, leaders, caregivers. Like, this is truly outstanding. First of all, I do want to say on behalf of Simpler, thank you. Thanks for letting us be here to meet you, to be a part of this community. I have to say, I do run our marketing team, so I get to hang out with a lot of different folks. This week, I'm with nurses. Last week, I was with bankers. And I have to say, I sat down in the middle of a room yesterday, and the person to my right had a blue cowboy hat on with lights all around it. And over on my left, they had these like white kind of lit up things they were waving. And I'm looking around, and I gotta tell you, the bankers, they do not act like that at all. Not a bit. This is a pretty unique group. And then we go from like parades of fun and activity to this incredible moment right here, and to your stories. I'm touched. I'm touched by all that you do. I know we all are in this room. In fact, we are all in awe of you, of the work that you do day in and day out. It is a privilege to be here with all of you.